then I raised my son, Gray, who is now 27, and then he left home, and I was, what do I do now? And so my friend called me from New York and said, "Are you still going to write a book?" And I said, "Yes," because you have to say yes. And so I said yes, and I thought, well, if I do this when I'm at home, it will never get done, because you sit at home and it's time for lunch, that needs fixed, something happens. So I rented a little office and I went there every day for a year, and I just wrote. And it's the story of The Cure, it's the story of myself and Robert as friends, because I've known Robert since I was 5 years old, and he used to live next door to my grandmother. And I was a little boy, so I would come out and I would see this other little boy sitting over there, and I would think, okay, maybe he wants to play. And he did. So took about a year to do the whole writing, and then I discovered some other stuff that you really need to be authentic. You have to be prepared to be completely honest. So it's the story of that time and the story of the life with the good and the bad things. And it has been the most creative thing that happened to me since The Cure. So I'm very happy to finally bring it to Mexico City, because I'm very hyper aware, because I live in Los Angeles in California and have done for 25 years. I'm very aware that Mexico is the biggest amount of Cure fans in the world. Yes. And also so far, because I've been to another place, the Hay Festival, the last 2 days, I know that you guys are the best. So, we'll just do some questions now. If you'd like to ask me a question, put your hand up, we'll do a question, I'll try and answer it. So.
¿Quién quiere hacerle preguntas a LOL? Por acá tenemos a... Okay.
No, pero tradúcelo, por favor.
Sí, te lo traduzco.
LOL,
Yes.
tú de esos 3 chicos imaginarios que le hicieron toda esta carrera, ¿cuál es tu disco más representativo, lo que tú tienes, el que añoras más en tu corazón?
Of the 3 imaginary boys in those days, which is the most representative album that you think?
Yeah, all of them, because they're all, part of us. And all the music we ever did was like our diary.
Toda la música era un diario.
Yeah. So these are not songs about imaginary things, they're not about Major Tom flying over the moon or something.
No son canciones imaginarias.
They're about things that happen to us in our lives.
Son
And
cosas que nos pasaron en nuestras vidas.
so, it's a diary. I am, I'm most proud of pornography in lots of ways.
Estoy muy orgulloso de Pornography.
But then, I look at later on, I look at Kiss Me. I love Kiss Me too.
Después me gustó mucho Kiss Me.
So, I like them all. They're like my children. You can't just like one.
Soy como los niños, no solo quiero uno.
Thank you.
What is your favorite song when you was in The Cure?
My favourite song that's not The Cure. I've lots of favourite songs that are not The Cure. I mean, I don't know, I asked my son Gray is 27, and I'm 60, so I asked Gray, what should I listen to? What's good music, And he told me recently there's a band called Low, and they put a new album out called Double Negative, and I've been listening to that the whole time. So, That's what I
Le
listen to.
pregunta a su hijo Gray qué es lo que tiene que escuchar y es lo que él se pone a escuchar.
And then I listen to the old stuff as well.
Y también las cosas viejas.
Okay.
Jairo,
Hello.
más bien es un agradecimiento por la música que has hecho con
I want to
a través
thank
de
you for
estos
the
años.
music you've done in all these years.
Y agradecerte personalmente, soy baterista y eres de mis influencias y ese es un agradecimiento.
I'm a drummer myself, and you are one of my influences. So
Ah,
this
good.
is
Thank
why I
you.
want to
And I was telling Annie earlier on, there's a truth about drummers. All drummers are friends.
Hay algo de verdad de los bateristas. Todos los bateristas son amigos.
So welcome, friend.
Así que, bienvenido, amigo.
Gracias.
At the beginning, you was a musician, and then you are a writer. I think you are an artist. How do you discover your new abilities, writing?
Okay. You know, I grew up in a house that had a lot of books. My mother was very interested. And so that love for literature, for reading, was with me from the very early. In fact, before I discovered music, I can remember in England you used to have a ticket to go to the library. And one library ticket would give you 3 books. I had 3 library tickets, so I could take out 9 books at a time, and I would just read, because you know I didn't have a way to interact with the people that lived in my town, because I went to school in a different town. I didn't know any of the kids, so I would read a lot all summer long. So it's always been in the back of my mind that that's something I would like to do. And you know, in about 2014-15, I decided my New Year's resolution would be just say yes. People ask me if I want to do something, I'm just going to go, yes.
La literatura también ha sido parte de mi vida. Desde que yo era pequeño, pues había en Inglaterra, te daban 3 boletos para ir a una biblioteca y yo iba a 3 bibliotecas, por lo tanto tenía la posibilidad de 9 libros en un periodo. Y pues básicamente la literatura ha sido también mi vida.
Okay. I feel sure there's somebody out this side now. Not quite as fun.
Hi,
Oh,
do you remember the creative process to make Carnage Spicers?
do I remember what?
The creative process?
Oh yes, very much so. It was one night in the studio with me and Robert. And Robert played the bass and I played the drum machine. And the Thompson twins were in the studio next door, and they were coming in to look at us and, what are you guys doing? We got this movie and we're making the soundtrack to it. What are you doing? But we did one night and we had a few beers and phone machines and that. And then the next day we woke up and thought, yeah, it sounds okay, so we'll keep it. And the best part about Carnage Vices was to play it before the shows, because people would watch it for 10 minutes and they'd be kind of interested. And then after 15 minutes, they'd be getting a bit anxious. And after 20 minutes, they were going out of their minds and they just wanted us to come on. And 30 minutes, they're like, please, just come play. And that's when we would walk on stage. So it worked great, you know. That's what I remember.
Hi, Lol.
Right.
I'm very glad to be here with all these Cure fans and to greet you. And a couple of friends told me to tell you that we love you in Mexico. And another friend told me to tell you that when you get out of the Cure just went down. I'm not that sure, because I'm a Cure fan.
I'm not at liberty to agree with you, but thank you.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I really have a question here, but I've read that you were very eager to leave Crawley. right?
Yes.
Because it felt like very
Yes.
small and everything.
Yes.
But I think for me, here in this huge city, when I started to listen to The Cure, it was like the same feeling.
Right.
Because it's a very huge city
Yes.
full of people, and it has always helped me a lot to listen to your music. And I'm very happy to talk to you.
Thank you. Well, I think, you know, the reason The Cure succeeded around the world and was accepted is because we wrote about things that are applicable to everyone. You know, every kid growing up in the suburb. Doesn't matter whether it's the suburbs of Mexico City or it's the suburbs of London, South London. You know, it's the same thing, same you know, feelings. That's what we wrote about.
Hi.
Hola, solamente que me gustaría saber qué comentarios ha recibido acerca de su libro de parte de Robert Smith y los otros integrantes de The Cure. Me gustaría saber qué opinan acerca de cómo los retrató en Cure.
What comments have you received from the other members of The Cure from your book,
Okay.
especially Robert and the other members?
Okay. Yeah. We have done about 300 of these kind of events, and that's one of the questions that everybody always asks every time. You know, when I first finished the book, the first person I gave a copy to was Robert. I said, okay.
El primero que le di una copia fue Robert.
Yeah, you want to read this one. If there's anything you're unhappy about, tell me. Maybe I'll change it, maybe I won't, but you know, at least I'll know.
Si algo no te gusta, pues quizá lo cambie, quizá no, pero bueno, al menos sabré.
And then the book came out. Robert didn't contact me, so I thought, okay, he's fine.
Así que salió el libro y Robert no me ha dicho nada, así que...
So the book came out and I did a lot of press, a lot of interviews, a lot of reviews all over the place. And then somebody asked me, we want to make a film, a movie of your book. And I said, yeah, I'd like that. And it was somebody I knew as a director that I really admired. So I wrote to Robert and said, you know, this is what's going to happen. You know, people have asked me to do it, and I wanted to ask you about, you know, certain things that we share in common that we need to sort of agree about. And then he told me about. He wrote me this big long email with like a lot of different things that he thought were in the book, but they weren't. They were things that people had written in reviews, and I had to write to him and say, no, I never said that. That's not in the book. That's nothing about it. Everything, you know, none of this stuff that you think about is in the book. And he said, oh, okay, give me a big kiss. That was it. Done. So he said, you know, I'm very happy that you've done this, that you've actually, you know, because it's an achievement to write it, you know, that's really good. I don't know, I mean, I think in a way, I'm possibly the only person that could write that story, you know. I don't know, I mean, Robert says he's going to write a book, but I don't know if he is, you know, because like David Bowie never wrote a book about himself because it kind of changes the relationship, you know, you have to be very, very open about it, and I think sometimes people still just want the mystery of their singers and stuff, you know, so.
Cuando sacó el libro, pues hubo mucha prensa y hubo muchas entrevistas y todo, pero después llegó la posibilidad de hacer una película y ahí fue cuando Robert le escribió y le hizo un correo gigantesco de un montón de cosas, pero que en realidad no estaban en el libro, sino que habían sido comentarios de la prensa y demás. Y entonces le dijo, no, pues nada de eso está en el libro, por lo tanto Robert le dijo, ah, pues perfecto. Y que él cree que en realidad, pues no cree que Robert tenga tiempo ni la vocación de escribir un libro así como ¿quién dijo?
David Bowie.
Como David Bowie nunca hizo un libro y demás, entonces pues ahí está.
Are you going to make the movie?
Yes, eventually, you know, it will happen for sure. It's just on that list of a million things to do. But, it's okay.
Hay una lista, digo, dentro de todas las cosas que quiere hacer está hacer la película esta. Quizás.
And I would like Robert Downey Jr. to play me. But who will play Robert?
Hi, welcome to Mexico.
Okay.
Your music is amazing.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mi pregunta sería, ¿en qué género musical consideraría que está todo el legado de The Cure? Y si cuando componían toda esta grandiosa música y letras, lo hacían pensando en el futuro, si no sé, en 200 años, 300 años se seguirá escuchando The Cure, si será un clásico, ¿cómo lo visualizan? ¿Qué considera al respecto? Gracias.
The music of The Cure, how would you classify it? What kind of, what gender of rock? And when you were writing these songs, did you think in the future that these songs would still be alive after many decades or hundreds of years?
Okay. I heard the word classic in there, which makes me shiver a bit because it makes me feel very old, you know.
Me hace sentir un poco viejo, pero bueno.
I don't know. Categories are for people who run radio stations, you know. I don't think that we ever decided we would, you know, we have to be a punk band, we have to be this kind of band. We never did that. We grew up listening to all the psychedelic stuff when we were like 12 years old, you know, and it comes in through things. And then me and Robert went to see The Clash. And
Éramos punks, no éramos punks, y luego fuimos a ver The Clash.
And then Joe Strummer said, Lowell, you can do this. He gave me permission.
Joe Strummer dijo, pues tú, puedes hacerlo. Le dio el permiso.
So that's very close to my heart, but it still doesn't make me a punk. It means I have the ideals of that.
Pero me da ciertas ideas.
As to whether we would be, you know, no. I mean, if you told me when I was 20 that in 40 years' time I'd be sitting here in Mexico City with all these lovely people telling the story, how could you ever imagine that? You can imagine that.
Que estaría en la Ciudad de México con toda esta gente maravillosa, pues no había manera de
Lola, this seems to be the Cure year.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things happening.
Yes.
The tour, the movie,
Yes.
the book, and you have been recently inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And I want you to please relate that moment when you have Trent Reznor talking about you and all the people,
Okay.
and please.
Good. I'm glad you brought that one up. I can tell you a nice story about this then. Okay. When we were, you know, I got a letter from the president of the Hall of Fame, and he said, you may remember me because I used to work with your agency in New York back in the 80s, and now I'm the head of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we would like to induct you this year, and it would make me very happy personally if, you know, you would all say yes. And Robert wrote to me and he said, are you going to go? And I said, yeah. You know why? Because I have lived in America for 25 years. I understand what it is that it means to people, because somebody growing up in Pennsylvania, looking out over fields of hay, you know, that liked us, they heard us on the radio, we became their soundtrack, and they had to live in a small town with people that only liked heavy metal or something, and they had a terrible time. I said, but for them now, this is vindication, because if we are the first band like that to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you know, there's only 300 artists in it, we should do it because that's vindication for all the people that followed us for all these years, that loved us. And he wasn't completely convinced by that. You know, he was like, oh, I don't know. So then somebody asked me, he said, I'm going to talk to everybody else in the band and see if everybody's coming. And then I said to him, well, you know, we're all getting older. If we don't all do this together to meet each other, we might not see each other. And then Andy Anderson passed away. So that was kind of true. And then Robert wrote to me and said, okay, we should all go. And I'm coming. And I went, okay, great. And somebody asked me, okay, who should we have induct you? And I said, Trent Reznor. And then the day of the Hall of Fame, we were sitting on stage, you know, sitting on the little tables they have and they're filming it. And I didn't know that Trent had agreed to do the induction. And he came out. And the first thing he said when he walked to the front of the stage was like, I grew up in Pennsylvania looking at hay fields, and this was my escape. And I looked at him and said, yeah, see, look, that's exactly right. That's what he said. You know? So I think we were all very happy to do it. It was kind of fun, you know. It was kind of fun, crazy but kind of fun.
Al Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Decía, bueno, pues se preguntaban él y Robert, no entramos. Pero al final de cuentas, viviendo en Estados Unidos por 25 años, pues él se preguntaba, es muy importante para una persona en Pennsylvania que solo ve estacas de forraje. Es importante estar en el Hall of Fame. Cuando finalmente ya estuvieron allí, alguien de Pensilvania precisamente, qué bueno que aceptaron firmar ahí y pertenecer al Hall of Fame.
All right.
Hi again.
Oh, okay. There you are.
Okay. What is the most important or valued thing that you learned when you was in the Cure?
The most important thing I learned, always have your own hotel room.
No, but that's significant.
That's the most important thing. No, true. It's true because you live with each other for 24/7, day after day, months after month. You know, if you would share a room with somebody that had different habits, you know. Yeah. I'm not being facetious. I'm being serious. It's like you have to get on with people. That's why good bands are not made up of the best guitarist, the best drummer, the best singer. They're made out of people that work together. You know, Joe Strummer said it as well. When the Clash broke up, he said, you know, we should have never have messed with the chemistry. The chemistry is between the people, not, you know, that's what makes the music, not the other way around, you know?
Yeah, and I just want to say that this is my dream since I was 13, and so thank you, and I love you.
Thank you.
Vamos a tomar dos preguntas más, así que...
It's humbling and flattering at the same time.
Kylon, do you remember the chat that you had with Robert when both of you decided to create The Cure?
No. No, because, you know, we were 13, 14, something like that. I don't think there was ever a point where we said, hey, let's go out and do this band. You know, it was like, it was just, you know, initially, and I think it always has to be this way, it was just fun. We didn't want to do anything else, you know, we didn't have another escape of any sort, so music was it, you know.
And we were talking about The Cure and The Clash,
yeah,
and all these bands that changed the life of too many people.
Yeah.
Music has a responsibility with the society, and what's happening now? What's happening with the music now?
¿Tiene la música una responsabilidad para la ciudad? Digo, para el mundo. ¿Qué está pasando ahora con la música?
The thing, you know, that's a very important point that you bring up. You know, we started when the world was in kind of a similar place, you know. The late 70s in England were kind of grim and bad, and there was a lot of fighting politically. Things were bad, and so punk rose up out of that. Especially in England, it was a political thing. It wasn't a fashion thing so much. It was, you know, something in reaction to what was going on in the world. And for me, and for hundreds of thousands of other people, it changed their reaction, their life to it. Now, it's the same kind of time, you know, here in America, in England for sure, Brazil. It's the same kind of world, and I really feel one thing I want to get across with the book and to talking to people is, you know, hey, you have to remember from history, because if you don't, things will become the same. So I talk to younger people and stuff, and I try and just let them know, hey, you know, you have to, I really hope, I don't know if it'll be music, I don't know if it'll be some other art form, but something, I'm really praying for something to come out of it, you know, to set it straight, to make it feel better, and just give us all a bit more hope, because at the moment, it feels quite hopeless, you know, which is a terrible place to be. You know?
What happened in England? Why from England are all the greatest bands in the world?
I think I think it's because you know, the whole society of England doesn't care about it. You know, they don't really care about it. You know, they have the biggest bands in the world, and they haven't built, you know, a proper kind of hall for different people to play in. You know, it's all, they just they accept it without venerating it. So you have to be really passionate. You have to be really good to rise to the top, because you're not going to get any help from anybody. I mean, I'll give you a story that illustrates that. A few months ago, somebody told me, I know some people from the city I grew up with that are now on the city council, and they decide what goes on, and they're like friends of mine. So they said, we're going to put a plaque on the wall that shows where you first started playing, like a historical marker. I said, good, if you do that, I'll come over and open it or something, you know, I'll be there for the ceremony. It never happened. It would never happen. And then they put a headline on the front of the local newspaper, and they quoted my book. They said, you know, he hates the city, but we still love him. And it's like, it's not true. They've never done anything for me to love them. You know, it's like they never wanted us, and they were happy when we left. But then when we became very big, like, oh, okay, yes, that's our guys, you know. And so I think that makes people, musicians in England, really want to prove themselves, you know, so makes it that way. I think that's what happened. Yeah.
Vamos a tomar una pregunta por allá. Ah, no, una por allá y otra por allá, y después pasamos a la firma de libros y discos.
Hello, Lawrence.
Yes.
My name is Claudia.
Yeah.
I have been a Cure fan since I was 17. I think, as all people here, I'm very thankful, and for you, for your presence, for your kindness, and besides being a Cure fan, I'm a writer myself. Okay. So this notice of your book made a new connection between me and you, even if you didn't know. But now I would like to ask you, what things do you consider to be the most important things for you? What makes you happy these days? And what do you consider the funniest things
¿Qué te hace feliz? ¿Qué te hace feliz ahora? ¿Y qué son cosas chistosas que te pasan?
What makes me the happiest? If I wake up every morning and I look up and I go, yes, there's the ceiling. But I'm not being, you know, you get older and your mortality comes into view. When you're younger, you don't care. You think you're immortal, which maybe we are, but you know. I think that's what makes me happy is, you know, I turned 60 and I thought to myself, what's it going to be like? Because I didn't like being 50, because somebody said to me, oh yes, 50, that's the youth of old age. And I thought, that means I'm not young anymore. Okay, so, but 60 felt great because I felt sort of like liberated. I felt, you know, I don't need to worry about anything anymore. I can just be me, do me, and it's fine. And it's the third act, you know, it's like, okay, if I'm lucky, I've got 30 more years or whatever. And so I'm just going to enjoy my life. And I enjoy my life. I mean, doing this, I get to travel all around the world and I get to talk to people that I like. And I have a great time. That makes me happy. The funniest thing is that I'm able to do it. That's the thing that makes me amused as well, that I'm actually, you know, able to do it as well.
Muy bien, una pregunta por allá, la última.
Hello again, all. I'm Francisco. I have a couple of silly questions, fun questions. Is it true that you had well, The Cure had a fight with Billy Idol? And the other, did you have an interaction with Sex Pistols?
Yeah, you know, that one is true. It's true. But it's kind of, I have another story that goes with that. I haven't told anybody yet. So, yes, that happened, and then I met Billy a little while later, and he kind of recognised me, but he wasn't sure, so I just said hi and went. But then about 6 months ago, I was in Los Angeles, and I went to the optometrist to get some new glasses, and because, you know, everybody over 45 needs reading glasses, right? And when I went into the store, and it's just like, you know, it's very close to my house. I've been there all the time for my son, everybody, you know. And I walked into the store, and I bought some new glasses, and the lady that was helping me was showing me them. And then she gave me the glasses, and she said, Billy Idol was just here. He buys all his glasses from the store. Okay, goodbye. So, you know, even my point of my story is that you know, yes, all rock stars, but we still buy glasses.
Muy bien, gracias.